To continuously sustain that wonder, that sense of wanting to know, is the basis of science and mysticism.
We have no way that a human could perceive a system of that complexity, and yet each of us has it. We can make new strains of mathematics, we can make computer simulations, but we'll never get it. I'll never get the brain.
But even this brain can be manufactured with something as simple as a piece of a carrot or a bread. So I'm saying, there is an intelligence here which can create a brain.
This is a place where I feel like science and mysticism have a real meeting ground, is that this three words of I don't know.
This human gadget is the gadget on the planet. Of what we have seen, this is the most sophisticated gadget on the planet, there's no question about that. Keeping that aside, but even this brain can be manufactured with something as simple as a piece of a carrot or a bread. So I'm saying, there is an intelligence here which can create a brain. Why are you ignoring that intelligence?
I think that's the heart of science, is to try to understand what that is. What I mean by that is, so we have different approaches in science to get there, but studying the genetic code and understanding how the heck with 27,000 genes can you unpack a human being? Because whatever the truth is of what's happening spiritually, if there's a separate you or not, what we know for sure is that you can unpack a human being from these four letters of amino acids, and these base pairs that make these proteins, and somehow that all gets unpacked, fueled by bread and carrots and so on.
You know, these kind of questions have always been on human mind. It happened almost 15,000 years ago. Adi Yogi, that means the first yogi, he had 7 disciples. These 7 disciples are full of questions. Some of them are astronomers, some of them are serious mathematicians, things like this. They have 1,000,000 questions. After some time, Adi Yogi is bored with their questions because whatever they ask, it's just a product of their intellect. They're not able to ask a question beyond that. So they ask, what is the nature of this, your cosmos? Where does it begin? Where does it end? How big is it? He's just bored. So he says, your cosmos, I can pack it into your mustard seed. The entire cosmos, I can pack it into your mustard seed, he said. Then they were flabbergasted by this. Then they said, what is it made of? If you can pack such a huge cosmos, which we can't even imagine where it begins and where it ends into your mustard seed, what is it made of? He was completely bored, even to utter a word, he simply said like this, 5 elements. Just these 5 elements, the entire universe is a play of these 5 elements. If you master the 5 elements, you have a key to every aspect of creation. If you don't master the 5 elements, if you approach it from outside, as you approach it, it will take on 1,000,000,000,000 new forms. As you try to study it, it can take on 1,000,000,000,000 new forms as you're looking at it, because that is what it is capable of. Just 5 things. 5,000,000 things would be difficult. 5, I'm sure you and me can study, isn't it? At least I'm capable of 5. You're talking in millions and billions, but I'm 5.
Are you going to tell me what the 5 are?
Huh?
Are you going to tell me what the 5 elements are?
You know, these 5 elements, it's called earth, fire, water, air, space. These are 5 things.
Maybe. I mean, maybe that'll work in the end.
Everything is just within this. Everything that you call as physical creation has substance of some kind. This is earth. And all of it is in movement, that's called air. All of it ascribes to some temperature, that is fire. And in everything there is water, which is the cohesiveness. If there is no water, there is no cohesiveness in anything. And all of it is held together by what we call as Akash. Here we're calling it as space in English language. It doesn't really describe what we are saying, but it's called Akash. Maybe a more closer word in English language would be ether. etheric space or whatever they're calling it as.
Okay.
So, These are the five things, whether an atom or a subatomic particle, everything is made of these five things. So you don't have to study the trillions of things which are manifestations of these five. If you understand these five things, if you have grasp over these five things, then everything becomes accessible. So the fundamental, the most basic process, unfortunately, the word yoga conjures completely wrong images in America. The most fundamental aspect of yoga is called bhuta shuddhi. This means cleansing of the elements so that you can feel them separately in your own system. This very body is 72% water and 12% earth, 6% air, 4% fire, remaining is space. If you take charge of these things, what you need to know, everything that is life is here, because modern physicists are saying, as you sit here, every subatomic particle is in communication with the rest of the cosmos. If it is so, you just have to become alive to it. You just have to become receptive to it. Rather than going around the cosmos and studying, if you sit here, it's reverberating because the nature… I think there is some constructional theory, something coming up in California, I don't know, you must be acquainted with these things.
I blurbed the book actually on the back.
So fundamentally what they're saying is, whether it is the smallest thing or the biggest thing, everything, the fundamental design is same. It is only the complexity and sophistication which is improving. Between an amoeba and you, the fundamental design is same. It is much more complex and sophisticated, but essentially life-making design is same. So if it is so, the most fundamental materials which make this life and every other physical aspect of what we see in this creation, if we know the ingredients and how they happen, then you have a key to every aspect of life. But if you try to study the creation itself, as you study, they will multiply into billions and trillions.
It seems it might depend what your goal is. So if you want to create a drug for cancer or build a helicopter, you need to do something with those five elements or break the world.
So it's not about exploration, it's about utility. What is the use of life? Let me ask you a question.
I would love to know. I've wondered that question. And I get it that science isn't getting me there. I mean, I've been in science my whole adult life, but I don't know. I get much more towards that question when I read literature, which was my first love before I went to science. So I take the point that science doesn't help me on that front at all. What would you say? I've wondered what the point is.
No, when we're looking at everything as… see, right now, this is an unfortunate reality which is… doesn't agree with my aesthetics of life. Right now, science has moved from an exploratory process to an exploitative process. If you see an atom, how to use it. If you see a bacteria, how to use it. If you see an elephant, how to use it. If you use a whale, how to use it. Of course, the next thing is if you see a human being, how to use them. This is where it's going. Everything, how to use it. This is not what life is about. You may get to know how to use every damn thing, but still, life won't get any better. If you know how to keep this one, life will get better, believe me. If you just know how to sit here blissed out, life will get better.
I see that point. Let me ask you, I'm curious what you think is reality out there, because I think you and I come from the same perspective that we're very limited in what we can actually see, and that an animal would see reality differently than you and I might see it differently also. If one of us has synesthesia, and so when we hear music, we see colors, things like that, then we might have very different realities. So what would it be like if you could get beyond the physical trappings?
See, language can go only thus far, whether it's science or literature. It can go only that far. When you speak any language, it must make logical sense. If it does not make logical sense, people are leaving right now. Yes, because language has this… language is deeply enslaved to the fundamental logic which is a product of our intellect. Without it, we could not speak. So now you're asking about something which is not going to be logically correct. So I am not willing to make a fool of myself here, talking about something that's not going to make sense to them right now. But we will talk about it in a different way. This happened. Adiyogi had a family, the first yogi. So, some disciple of his from South India carried a basket of mangoes. Have you tasted the Indian mango?
Yeah,
Indian mango?
I've been to India, yeah.
Okay. So it's during this season, right now, unfortunately I'm in America. This time of the year, mango is the only religion in the country. Everybody is head to toe mango, okay? So, mangoes drive us crazy. In southern India, we have over 200 varieties of mangoes. So, different days they want to eat different types of mangoes and they want to cook mango, they want to… everything is mango, okay? People have come up with facial creams, mango creams and everything. So somebody carried a basket of mangoes and came all the way to Himalayas to offer it to their guru. But by the time they came, the basket one by one, mangoes going bad, either they threw it away or they ate it up, something happened. By the time they came there, only one mango was left. One beautiful South Indian mango. I'm talking about it like you talk about brain. Believe me, it's sweet, not like the brain. So now Adiyogi has a wife and two children, two boys. Now one mango is not like an apple, you can't cut it into half and give it to two people. It can only be eaten like this, you know. If you cut it, it won't go equal anyway. So what to do? Both the boys came running, we want the mango. Each one wants the mango. So they didn't know what to do, then they said, what? They have to set up something, who gets the mango? They said, okay, let's have a little race, whoever wins the race gets the mango. Because these are Adiyogi's children, it's not a 100-meter dash. They said, whoever goes around the world 3 times first, they will get the mango. So the younger boy immediately set off, racing around the world, wanting to make 3 rounds, and he went away. The older boy was a little obese. He just sat there. He didn't move, the parents were surprised. Then they thought maybe he's given up on the mango. The young boy wants to get it, he's running, this boy has given up. But this boy sat there for some time, then he got up. He went around his father and mother 3 times and said, mango. They said, what, you didn't even run? What do you mean? The race is about going around the world. He's going around the world, I went around my world. You are my world. I've gone around, I deserve the mango. They couldn't argue with this logic, so they gave him the mango. He ate. And the younger boy came and, you know, things happened. Fireworks. Fireworks happened, he became very furious, all those things are another story. But what I'm saying is, there is a subjective reality and there's an objective reality. When I say subjective reality, I'm not talking about just your thought and emotion. Like you were talking about, cognitive reality can be different. What is smell for somebody is taste for someone else. What is sweet for somebody is bitter for somebody else. What's light for one person is darkness for another creature. Here I see one creature right behind staring at me. So, this perception is… these 5 senses are tuned for our survival. If survival is what we are seeking, sense organs are fine. But once you're looking at life as an exploration, you want to know life, not just live life, you want to know. When you want to know, 5 senses are no good. They are not sufficient faculties to know. Right now, this brain, I'm not trying to downgrade it, it's a fantastic thing. This brain is nothing without the 5 senses. It is these 5 agencies which are gathering information and feeding up this brain all the time, both every moment of your wakefulness and sleep, this is happening. If you walk from here to there, If somebody is wearing a strong perfume or something else, you may notice it, otherwise generally you may not notice. But if you walk from here to there, your olfactory cognition is taking in probably 200 different smells if you walk from here to there. It is just that you have not paid enough attention to decipher that, and your other faculties are overriding that. Suppose you did not have eyes, ears, nothing. If you shut them off for some time, you will see suddenly your nostrils become so very sensitive, you can just smell out how many people are there. If you bring your dog here, he almost knows how many people are here. He doesn't know just some human smell. He knows individually distinct smell of each person that is here. We also have that because our neurological system is way more sophisticated than that of a dog, but there are other overriding factors which have diminished that. But if you wish, you can develop that to a certain level. So cognitive distinctions are there and cognitive confusion is there as you… what's that word about smell becomes a color and color becomes…
Synesthesia.
Something. Okay, whatever. No, it's anesthesia, synesthesia, something is lost, something is mixed up, like a drink. A man who is just out of the bar may feel that way, you know. Everything may become colorful or not colorful depending upon his mood on that day or what he had. So, these things are happening because you can impair these things or enhance these things with a little bit of chemical stimulation or injuries or diseases or… This is essentially a chemical soup. What kind of a soup is the question. So our whole effort in the yogic system is how to keep it very equanimous and exuberant at the same time. The problem with most people is if they become equanimous, they become death-like. If they become exuberant, they keep flipping all the time. To be equanimous and exuberant means your sense organs and you can function in a certain way. You are vibrantly alive, but you're absolutely equanimous. If this one thing happens, suddenly your sensory perception will not be the limit for you. There are other dimensions of perception which will not come into one's experience unless there is a certain level of striving. For example, 200 years ago, I heard 97% of United States population was illiterate. Today, probably almost 100% literacy in the country. How does this happen? It's the infrastructure of schoolrooms and human infrastructure of teachers and many other things and books and whatever. If this infrastructure was not built, even today we would be in the same condition, isn't it? So similarly, for turning inward, there is no infrastructure. Few individuals may be doing it somewhere, but there is no large-scale infrastructure in the society as to look at life just as life, not as to how it is useful. Life need not be useful, it's a phenomena beyond our use. It is a phenomena to be experienced. We have come here to experience life, not to use life, isn't it so? Hello? We have come here to experience life, not about how to put this to use. This is not a work donkey.
I'm trying to understand this issue about knowing. So where we clearly have overlap in the way we go about it is wanting to know things, wanting to understand everything around us. But there's a sense in which we're not limited by our intellect because I have the opportunity to ride on the back of all the other humans on the planet and those that have come before me. It's a collective intellect that's now encoded on Wikipedia and in millions of books. And I have an opportunity to take experiences from across the world, places I've never been, ideas that I would have never thought of and so on, and feed all that in. So it's a much richer diet, first of all.
A much richer data.
It's a diet of data. I mean, it's what shapes my next thoughts, is what I've taken in.
No, it is just that today we have access to much larger data than maybe 100 years ago, all right? But still, we've already looked at this, it's still a minuscule, isn't it?
I agree. Compared to the whole cosmos, still minuscule. But it's moving in the right direction. The unslakable thirst for knowledge that humans have means that there's this ratcheting up each generation. So it's not that it is of course the case that I'm limited in my thoughts to the impressions that I've had, but I have a much bigger fire hose of impressions now that can build on the scaffolding of the generations before me, the things they've already figured out, so that I can start at the next level and
But
move
start
up.
at the next level for what? Towards what end?
That's a good question. I mean, it's toward the end of knowing in the way that science cares about knowing. So putting aside usefulness of technology, just the way that scientists ask questions. Richard Feynman, the physicist, said, science is like sex. Sometimes something useful comes out of it, but it's not why we're doing it. So it's a way of knowing, and it's a collaborative way of knowing, where we link arms across space and across generations as well to try to get somewhere.
I'm in no way trying to disagree with that or in any way discredit that. It's a tremendous effort, but I'm saying if knowing is the purpose, because wanting to know, how much time and energy somebody is willing to dedicate to that may be questionable from person to person, but everybody wants to know, there's no question about that. But knowing everything by intellect, we will know the surface of everything, but never the real source of everything or the core of everything. Because the only the only doorway to our experience is this human mechanism. You don't know the world any other way than the way this one is projecting right now within itself, yes?
Agreed.
There is no other way. You don't know how that is, you only know the way it is happening within you, isn't it? I don't know how you are really, I only know the way your picture is right now projecting in my brain or my system and how I'm perceiving it. As you know, you have drilled holes into people's brains and impaired something and put electric current and whatever you've done. I'm not saying you as a person, I'm saying these things have been done. You'll definitely know, by interfering with a certain physical process, the whole perception could change. The world has not changed, but perception has changed, so in his experience, everything has changed. So that dimension of life is only useful for survival. When I say survival, everything that we're doing is survival. To survive better, to enhance our survival to a better status or in an enhanced way of survival process. But once you've come as a human being, it doesn't matter how well you survive, still it is not good enough, isn't it? It's never going to be good enough because survival is not going to fulfill a human being. It doesn't matter how big our homes get, how big our cars get, how energy efficient it gets, how better we dress, how better we eat, still we will feel it's not enough because that's not the direction in which the life wants to go.
So here's the part I'm trying to understand, is this issue about knowing, this issue about seeking knowledge. Let's say, either in science or in mysticism, we depend on our senses for that, yes? Or are you saying that
I'm saying they're not dependable.
Agreed.
They're not dependable.
But isn't it all we have? Or you're saying there's this other
Yes.
aspect to the mind?
See, for example, suppose you or me were lost in the jungle as infants, okay? If something edible came, we definitely would take it and put it in the mouth. We wouldn't try our ears first, then nostrils, and then by accident discover the mouth. No, we just know how to eat, no question about that. So I'm saying everything concerned with our survival is inbuilt. It's there. This is millions of years of memory which is there within us, we know how to survive. But we wouldn't know how to read, we wouldn't know how to do so many other things which have become a part of our life. Do you remember when you were 2 or 3 years of age, when they tried to teach you that alphabet, the damn A, how complicated it was? It was so complicated just to get it right. You had to write 100 times to get it. Today with eyes closed you can do it. Because of a certain striving, isn't it? Similarly, anything beyond survival, if we have to have it in our lives, a certain striving is needed. As I said, striving for inward perception is something, unfortunately, that's been banished in modern societies because we are on the thrill of technology. It's a fantastic thing, But you will see as time progresses, as technology becomes better and better, human beings will become more and more frustrated. If you have not noticed this, just look out and see, you will see 8-year-old, 10-year-old kids bored. In your generation or my generation, we would have never seen, we never knew what is damn boredom is. When you were 8 or 10, you were just bubbling with life and on, but today you see 10-year-old kids are just bored with it because they've seen the damn cosmos through their phone screen. They know it all. So I'm saying all this excess may not lead to betterment of life, and it will not. Comfort and convenience will come. But well-being will not happen. The purpose of enhancing human experience on this planet will not happen. It will only entertain us intellectually big time, which it is, no question. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying it's limited.
It may be the thing that allows people to make a deeper pursuit, in exactly analogy with the idea of building schoolhouses throughout the country. It would have been 30 years ago that it would be difficult for you to speak to many people, but now you have 500,000 followers on Facebook. Yeah.
As I was telling you, I was in a very large gathering of people and somebody asked me, Sadhguru, what about all the gurus, ancient gurus who are there, what about them? I said, nothing. I am the greatest guru. Because when Krishna was there, he could speak to… he was a very gentle human being, probably he could speak to 50 people at a time. When Gautama came, he stood up and spoke more loudly. Maybe 100 people. Vivekananda came, he had a big voice, maybe he spoke to 200 people. Look at here, right now I'm speaking to 50,000 people, and if I want, I can speak to the whole world sitting here. So I'm the greatest guru ever. Because technology has definitely facilitated that, no question. But at the same time, technology doesn't have discriminatory powers. As you can deliver well-being, you can deliver disaster through technology by itself. It doesn't have a mind of its own, it is a certain capability, and all machines and whatever we have created technology, from a bicycle to a spacecraft or a computer or whatever, essentially only what we can do, enhancement of that. Because we can speak, now a microphone has come, a telephone has come. Because we can see, a telescope has come, a microscope has come. Only what we can do, we are enhancing it with various machines and gadgets we are creating. We have not created one machine or gadget to do something that we ourselves cannot do in a rudimentary way.
I agree with that.
So I'm saying you're only enhancing your 5 senses.
For now, yes, but
no,
as you know…
See, right now, it can happen. Right now, with a phone, I can talk to somebody in India. Technology may come, I can smell the food that they're cooking in India. If I'm missing home, they can turn on the phone and I can smell the food from India. It may happen. I'm not saying it's beyond that, it's very much possible it may happen. But I can do it without a phone also.
So, you're very interested in inner engineering. My interest is in outer engineering, and as you know, I've built a vest in my laboratory with vibratory motors on it, and we're experimenting now with feeding in new kinds of data streams into the brain because the brain appears to be flexible enough to take in any kind of new data streams and have a sensation of it. So if I feed in weather patterns from the surrounding 200 miles, or if I feed in real-time stock market data, you can, in theory, develop a sense of the economic movements of the planet, things like this. Now, we're just at the foot of the mountain on this, but it may be that there are whole new kinds of human senses, and that would be a proof of principle of developing something that goes beyond, that makes a new kind of sense. Essentially takes these peripheral devices and adds new ones, and eventually we'll probably build new kinds of sensors and plug them right into the brain.
But still they will only enhance your present capabilities, not something new, not entirely new.
I don't know, if I could actually have an individual experience of weather patterns 200 miles wide, as I'm walking around, I'm tapped into that, I think that's a new human experience. It's not something you've had before.
This is something that happened almost 45 years ago when I was living on a farm. So there is a man, a middle-aged man in the village who is, he can barely hear, 95% gone. Just if you shout at him, he hears something. So because he cannot hear, he cannot say anything, he just dumb and stares at things. So everybody thinks he's a fool and, things happening, he's not valued in the village. So I took him as my man Friday, and I said, you stay on my farm and work for me. So he was with me. What I found was, one morning he gets up and gets the plow and those are the days, not tractor days, we still plow with the animals. So he gets the animals and the plow ready. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm getting ready to plow. I said, where are you going to plow? It's dry. He said, it's going to rain today. I look at the sky, it's clear sky. I said, nonsense, where is it going to rain? He said, no, it's going to rain. He simply sits there like this, because no social communication, he can't hear. He simply sits there like this the whole day. If there's no work, he just sits in one place unmoving. And he just knows. And you won't believe it'll rain. The day he says it'll rain, it will rain. Then I sit up, okay, I'm doing all this yoga, I'm not getting this guy. So I sat there day after day, turning my hand like this, trying to feel this, trying to feel that, feeling the earth, looking up, looking down, everything. I applied myself for 18 months. And today, in tropical climate, with my eyes closed, I will say, today it's going to rain means 95% it's going to rain. It's just a keener observation of everything, that's all. You just… because he could not hear, he just sharpened the other aspects so much, he just knows when it'll rain, and always, bang on.
Maybe he had one of my vests on.
Possible, but he was not sparkling like you.
I'm curious on a completely different topic. When you look at other faith traditions, when you look at the rabbi, sages, and imams, and people all over the world of different traditions, what do you see in common?
The common is, they all believe something that they don't know. Because I think the main reason why every human being is not a natural seeker is they have not realized the immensity of I do not know. Only if you say I do not know, the possibility of knowing arises, longing to know arises, seeking to know arises, then knowing becomes a possibility and a reality. Everything that you do not know, if you just believe, you destroy the possibility of knowing altogether. But belief is something that builds confidence into a human being, makes him far more sure-footed than others. But confidence without clarity is very disastrous, both for the individual and the larger humanity and the planet itself. See, suppose, let's say my vision is not clear. It is, but I'm just saying. Suppose my vision is not clear, I want to walk through you, but I can't see clearly, but I'm very confident. You know what a disaster I will be for you, all right? If I understand my vision is not clear and I don't have this foolish idea of confidence, then I will walk gently. I'll seek somebody's help, I'll have some humility to walk through people in a certain way. Otherwise, I will see how to clear my vision, what I have to do for that. But if you have no clarity and you have confidence, it's a dangerous… it's TNT. It's bound to explode on humanity somewhere. It keeps happening here, there. We are just looking at eruptions, small eruptions, but it's bound to happen somewhere large scale. But at the same time, as human intellect is sparkling like never before, for the first time in the history of humanity, more human beings are thinking for themselves than ever before. All these thousands of years, one village or one town with a few thousand people means only one guy would think, others would just take instructions from him. Now almost everybody is able to think. How clearly, how much clarity or confusion is a different thing, but at least they're thinking. As this evolves, I believe in the next 50 to 100 years, as more and more human beings start thinking for themselves, then you will see believing in something will be completely out of vogue. Because essentially believing something means, with all due respect to everybody, essentially believing something means you are not sincere enough to admit that you do not know. We all have to come to this much: what I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. This is a fantastic way to be. And I do not know person cannot fight with anybody. That's the biggest thing. I know, always there is a fight. So, all these religious processes which are ended up as religions, at one time when they started as an individual experience for somebody. That person shared his experience with a few people around him, maybe a dozen or maybe 100 or maybe a few thousand he shared. And over a period of time it gets organized and becomes something totally different. So, it has a huge responsibility of handling psychological well-being of the human beings in the sense, see, human beings are psychologically always confused and they don't know where to be, what is their well-being, and for every small thing there is confusion, you know. It's something that I realized when I went to the university. I refused to… I'm sorry, I'm speaking in a university. I refused to sit in the classrooms because it was too uninteresting for me. So I sat in the garden outside under a tree. Once I planted myself there, everybody knew that I'm there every day, without fail, under the tree where all kinds of debates and discussions we started, and people started coming to me with all kinds of problems. You know, students having their own problems, their education problems, boyfriend, girlfriend problems, parental problems. As I sat there and heard through everybody's everything, in these 3 years that I was there, I must have heard thousands of people about their problems. It became like a problem point. Anybody has a problem, they come to me. I realized I was the only freako who did not have a problem. Everybody had a problem, which made them normal. I did not know what's a problem. It's not that everything was perfect, but it's just that I didn't view it as a problem. I just saw situations are there, some works for me, some don't work for me. But everybody has a problem. If you really look at it, the problem with humanity is just this. From being a monkey or a chimpanzee to a human being, it's actually a small change, you know. From a chimpanzee to a human being, there is only 1.23% DNA difference, I believe. That's not much, isn't it? We could forget sometime who we are But what a phenomenal change in the intelligence that we have compared to a chimpanzee or a monkey. So the problem is just this, we have a intellect which is sharp and we don't know how to hold it. Whichever way we touch it, it cuts us. All the suffering, human suffering on the planet is manufactured in their own mind. From outside, how much suffering is happening to you, tell me? Nothing much, it's all generated, it's all self-help. This is because this evolutionary process has happened so rapidly. As Charles Darwin went about describing, a goat became a giraffe, it took many million years, a pig became an elephant, many million years. But from monkey to man, it happened rather quickly, to a point where people think there is a missing link somewhere, okay? So quickly that we have still not gotten used to this intelligence. We're struggling as to how to manage this intelligence, and this intelligence is the basis of people's suffering. If you remove half the brain, most of them will be peaceful. Yes or no? Hey, you're the expert, you must tell me. You know, in mental asylums, when people are completely out of control, they are doing lobotomy, remove part of the brain, they become peaceful. So right now, just to be peaceful and happy is such a huge challenge for most human beings, simply because they're not able to conduct the sparkle of their own intelligence. If they were little dumber, they would be peaceful. Yes. So the problem is not of… the problem is of plenty. The problem is not of paucity, it is just that a certain level of intelligence which we are not able to handle because there is no stable platform. There is an intelligence here for which there is no stable platform. Unless you create a stable enough platform, this intelligence will not work for us, it'll work against us simply because it's a sharp knife. If you don't know how to hold it, it'll cut you up. Why we do not give a knife to a child's hand is not because knife is dangerous, because child's hand is not steady enough, he could become dangerous to himself or to somebody. So this process of perception and understanding and consciousness, all these things are questions being asked by the intellect. Intellect is always looking at the world only in pieces, in bits and pieces, because all the information that comes to the intellect is coming through sense organs, and sense organs perceive everything only by comparison. Without context, they cannot perceive anything. For example, if I touch this glass, it feels cool to me. It is not that I know what is happening with this glass, it is just that my body temperature is in a certain way, because of that I feel it's cool. If I lower my body temperature and touch this would be warm to me. So sense organs are giving a perspective only in comparison, which is useful for survival. What this means is, suppose you're 6 feet tall, you stand like a tall man, you walk like a tall man, you feel like a tall man, you are a tall man. You went to another society where everybody is 8 feet tall. Suddenly you stand like a short man, walk like a short man, feel like a short man, you are a short man. So I'm saying this perspective of knowing everything by comparison is only useful for survival process. Now that science in its essence is interested in knowing, not about enslaving the world. How to use it is not the question. How to know this is just an intrigue that from nowhere we just pop up and full-scale drama and suddenly we pop out and don't know what. For this we have simplistic answers. Okay, you will go to heaven, okay, you will go to hell, the people that you don't like will go to hell, of course you and me will go to heaven. So these things are there. We are trying to handle our ignorance with solace. Solace is what you're seeking, you must believe something. Belief is a good thing because today modern psychiatrists are here trying to solve these problems that human beings are having with their intelligence, which are turned against themselves. Essentially, all human suffering is their own intelligence having turned against them, that's all it is. So psychiatrists are trying to handle, but they can only handle one client at a time and they need a lot of furniture and all this. But religions and faiths have managed people for a long time, hats off to them for that, because they've given solace and balance to people for a very long time. But solace is one thing, solution and seeking is something totally different. If you're talking about seeking to know, then belief systems are of no consequence. If solace is what you're seeking, yes, you must believe something, because instead of going to weekly psychiatrist sessions, if you simply believe something, everything will just settle down within you. It's a fantastic tool that way.
This is a place where I feel like science and mysticism have a real meeting ground, is that this 3 words of I don't know. And sometimes science gets a bad reputation about this, and people say things like, well, scientists have proven this or that, but scientists never use the word proof or truth or, we know this is the way it is. Instead, this capacity to hold on to multiple hypotheses at the same time and say, I don't know what is the right answer, is part of the scientific temperament. It's an important part of the fabric of everything we do in science, is this understanding that Mother Nature is way bigger than we are, and that we, in our lifetimes, might not get anything but one step closer to in the direction of truth.
The process, the methodology employed by science, it's not one lifetime. If you come for 1,000,000 lifetimes, still you will not know, because the phenomena of creation is such, as you're studying it, it'll multiply into 1,000,000 more. That is the nature of creation. The same things can become so elaborate. I think this is what is happening to science. What they thought is one thing, they looked into it, they found 1,000,000, they thought, okay, we got 1,000,000, they looked into that 1,000,000, it became 1,000,000,000, endlessly it's going on, because that is the nature of creation. So, looking at the physical phenomena and wanting to know the source of creation is… I'm just saying the seeking is fantastic, but the methodology will only throw out useful technologies. But how many technologies do you need to live well, I'm asking? Okay, your iPhone S6 is good enough, do you want S8 tomorrow morning? What are you going to do with it? Even the damn S6, most people are not using 3% of its capabilities. Yes or no? Huh? Most people are not using 3% of that phone's capability.
Look, I think our science is too young still to know whether we are always going to confront a multiplication of problems or not.
No, I don't say they're problems.
Questions.
There'll be more things to study, that's all.
Yes, but sometimes people call that weenie science, by which I mean, once you understand the structure of the atom and so on, you could measure the neutron to finer and finer resolution, but who cares? Because that's not the fundamental problem anymore. And we're still at such a young age that we don't know whether science will keep bifurcating into more and more interesting questions or whether it'll just become weighing things and it doesn't matter, because now we kind of get the core of it. We might not know that for 100 years or 1,000 years, but I don't know for certain that we are doomed to infinite complexity. It may be that we can put together a very clear model
What I'm
of what's
saying
going
is,
on.
you're fundamentally employing sense organs.
I agree with that.
Sense organ is the basis of all scientific pursuit. I'm saying sense organs are not reliable instruments. You ask the owl.
I think that the pursuit of science is really trying to surmount our sense organs. It's trying to figure out this…
Now, how would they surmount?
By understanding laws of nature that we don't know why they're true, but they seem to be correct, like quantum mechanics, like basic Newtonian physics, by, figuring out why force equals mass times acceleration. Why is that true? Nobody knows. But that's the way that people pursue trying to understand. It's a way of reaching into the cosmos and figuring out that there are laws that go beyond my sense organs. I have no way to smell or touch F equals ma, and yet it seems to hold. And that's the sense in which we go beyond the little peripheral devices that we come to the table with and try to understand what's past that. It is true that we have to translate things into equations, and equations we might write down or we might hear if we're a blind person, but in theory that's something that's beyond our basic sensory apparatus.
See, we distribute this, just for convenience I'll make it into 4, okay? We look at creation as 4 different dimensions. Sthula, which means the gross physical creation. Sukshma, which means subtle. That means you cannot perceive them through sense organs, but if you hone your attention to a certain level, then you can perceive that. So this is called as Vishesh Gyan, which means an extraordinary perception, or it's called Vigyan. Today in India, in local languages, the word for science is Vigyan, okay? That means it's Vishesh Gyan. Vishesh Gyan means extraordinary perception. So we are perceiving things that our sense organs could not perceive, but still they are in the realm of physicality. And all physicality is perceivable through sense organs if they are honed well. If you may not be able to perceive, some other creature on the planet is able to perceive. I think…
Yeah, many different creatures
Yes.
have totally different
So
slices
they're
of
able
their
to perceive,
ecosystem.
that means it's still physical reality. So, what is called as sthula is gross reality, which all of us can see and hear and smell. What is considered as sukshma? Still physicality, but so subtle that your eyes and ears are not good enough for that, but if you're willing to pay attention, you can perceive. Then next is called as shunya, which literally translates as emptiness in English, but emptiness is not the word. It is physicality without form. There is no form. All physical has defined form, but shunya means physicality has reached a place where there is no form to it, it's just physical, or it's fundamental material of physicality. The next is called as Shiva, which means that which is not. That means that which is not physical at all. So, existence is seen as these four components, and how to perceive these four dimensions. There's a whole methodology. Why I'm saying this is, if only scientists who have pursued things so far into physical reality, if they pay little attention to the most fundamental physicality, which is themselves, if they turn inward rather than constantly looking through a telescope or a microscope, if they spend equal amount of time turning inward, I think something phenomenal could come out of it.
For many scientists, the reason they turn outward is as a way of understanding what this is all made out of, which would include understanding something about what a piece of life is. Let me ask you this. When you say, I am a piece of life, you are a piece of life, I hear that and understand it in a particular way, but I want to know what you mean by a piece of life.
Because what you drink is life, what you eat is life, what you breathe is life. All this we're gathering, and this is a piece of life, which has acquired a certain level of information, built its own kind of software unconsciously, and its own tendencies and its own character and its own personality, but that's a bubble. It's like if you blow soap bubbles, each bubble has a character of its own. When they burst, the most essential ingredient of the bubble was the air. Where is it? It's all there. So this is all air, and the bubble is a piece of air. Similarly, this is all life. This whole cosmos is a living cosmos. Here I'm a piece of life. And life has given me this privilege that I can hold this piece of life within myself and experience it as if I am by myself everything. This is a fantastic privilege, but we should not abuse this.
And do you see that as being illusory, the idea that you're a piece of life and I'm a piece of life, given that we share atoms, and when I'm breathing out and you're breathing in and so on, we're exchanging atoms, do you see that as an illusion that there is a you and a me, or are we all the same life?
See, the thing is right now, all these apps have come and different kinds of softwares have come. So this is easy to understand today because people are using this thing all as if they're live, okay? And they're alive in their own way because a certain amount of information has been calibrated in a certain way to do certain things, and it's almost alive. I think most people have a better relationship with their WhatsApp than with their family, okay? Yes, people are so engaged with it because it has a character of its own, and it's even predicting what's the next word you will type. Which your family cannot do, your friends cannot do probably. So, this is just like that. It has accumulated a certain amount of information. This vast life that's available, around it we formed a bubble. This is my bubble, that's your bubble. What is the content of the bubble? It's the same stuff. But what is the surface of the bubble? My surface is entirely different from yours. And it has its own characteristic, it has its own flavor, it has its own tendencies. So this is an unconscious software that every one of us is building with phenomenal amount of information that we are acquiring as we sit here. The five senses are gathering a phenomenal amount of information that one gathers in 24 hours of time. If you spend 1,000,000 years, you can't process it. That much information we are gathering. This is what traditionally we refer to as karma. It's all twisted out in America, I'm seeing. The word karma, everybody's calling themselves karma now. You know, people are named karma. I heard some people were named karma. So suppose we see right now, we don't know how the outside weather also is quite good, I think in the evening. At least the air conditioning is good, everything is nice, you're fine. Nobody's troubling you here, but you're sitting here miserably. Then we say, "Ayyo, it's his karma." What it means is, the word karma literally translates as action or doing. So we say, who you are right now is entirely your doing. The way you have structured yourself, knowingly or unknowingly, the kind of womb that you were born in is also an unconscious choice because you created a certain type of tendencies, that's where you moved, in search of that kind of tendencies. What facilitates that? So this software is building up all the time unconsciously. So only thing that I want to say now is, whatever you can do unconsciously, if you are willing, you can do the same thing consciously. If you can build so much software unconsciously, if you are willing, you can restructure that consciously. I can show you millions of people who restructure themselves in a matter of few weeks. I can show you few people where the very shape of their face will change in 24 hours' time simply because they start a certain process. Entirely, their whole personality is altered within a matter of 1 or 2 days of doing certain processes because distancing yourself from your genetic memory, there's an entire process. Most Indians have forgotten, otherwise it was there in every family. Whenever somebody dies or even when your parents are alive, there are processes how to distance yourself from your genetic memory. Because this is very important, if you want to be a unique fresh bubble of your own, then you must distance yourself from genetic memory, otherwise you will see at 18 you're a great rebel, you don't want to be like your parents and this and that. You see when you're 45, suddenly you start walking like your father, talking like your mother, stuff is happening to you, you don't know, because don't underestimate these people. They won't give up so easily. Your grandfather may be dead and gone, but the guy wants to live through you. So the thing is to distance yourself from genetic memory so that you don't become a cyclical pattern of repetitiveness. You want to be a fresh life. That means you have to recalibrate your software consciously. Anything that you can do consciously, you can also do… Anything that you can do unconsciously, you can also do consciously if the necessary striving is there.
What does it take for people to have that level of striving?
It depends how far they want to go. If somebody comes and asks, if I want to know the entire, not the new physics, what has happened till now, if I want to know, how long does it take? If a fresh student comes and asks, is there a time you can say? No, you can say, okay, start on a science undergrad, let's see. If he does undergrad and he thinks he's beginning to know everything, then you start telling him, this is not it, you got to do your masters. If he does that, you will say, then you have to do your PhD. After your PhD, you're declared that you don't know much.
That's right, that's the path of wisdom in science, is learning how little we know.
The most basic thing that one can do, how long does it take means, the most fundamental thing is, first of all, to know that there is another dimension of faculty within us, that there's another way of perceiving things, that there is something beyond, not as a belief, not as a conclusion, not as something that is said in some scripture or by some guru or some teacher or whatever, but by yourself to know, beyond this body, beyond this mind, there is something within you. This experience, if this has to happen, I would say if you are willing to dedicate just 30 hours of absolutely focused time, if you give me, in 30 hours' time, we can bring you to a place, we can give you a tool through which you know something beyond your physicality. What that thing is, you don't have to jump into a conclusion, but something beyond your physical nature will become alive within you and you know there is something beyond physical nature. If that is enough inspiration for you to continue your pursuit, then how long it will take the entire pursuit, you cannot say, each individual is his own. They're saying enough.
Okay, I have a… I have a message that we're going to go to Q&A now. And Trent, is there a pattern to the Q&A in terms of people getting a microphone, or should they just shout? Okay, I see. There are microphone runners and people will raise their hand. Okay.
I thought they were announcing dinner time.
Good evening, Sadhguru. So my question is directed towards you. So I've heard from you in past that for this path of seeking, one does need a guru. One needs someone to show the light. So how does one select a guru? How does one know who's the right person to take him through that path?
I've got an app for that. Yeah.
See, if I give you a torchlight in your hand, still does not mean you're going to find your way home, okay? A torchlight just shows how you see it, whether you walk the right path, with how you handle this, all this is entirely left to you. But it lights up. The torchlight lights up so that you don't step into a drain or you don't step into a ditch. It lights up the place. But with the torchlight, many people have walked to their death. Yes? Yes, people have. With headlamps on, they've gone crashed, right? So, this is just lighting up the place. What you do is always left to you. So, which is the best light? Today, I think LED is doing well. So, who is the best light? It is… you should not make a conclusion like that. Who is the best light on the planet? I told you, give me 30 hours. If it works very well for you, if it enhances your life, well, let's try 60 hours. If it works really fantastic, let's try a little more. Let's go in installments. I don't want anybody to be hanging on to me thinking I'm their savior or something. That's not the way to go for it. Experiment with it. If it works, let's put more energy and more time into it. If it works further, let's put more energy and more time into it. I think that's the way to go. Not today coming here and making a decision, okay, this is my man. This is not marriage, okay?
Can I… right here, first I would ask David for a question. I don't want to discount science from mysticism or mysticism from science, but what I want to, through this discussion, what I had been thinking about is, as you say, you observe, how can I… I have a question for David first. Have you ever studied someone who's observed themselves from outside, like suspending yourself from within you and observing you? And to Sadhguru, what would be the best technique to achieve that level of human intelligence, that you suspend yourself out of yourself and observe yourself?
So it depends exactly what we mean by observing yourself from the outside. There is what's called an out-of-body illusion that people can have. It's a little complicated to explain the setup, but it has to do with wearing some video goggles and putting a camera behind you. And so you're now seeing your body, with your goggles, you're seeing your own body there. And, you know, somebody scratches your back, and you can see your back getting scratched over there, and you're feeling it also, but you're seeing your own body at a distance. And this allows people to sometimes have a very clear experience where their body is there, but they feel like, I am 6 feet behind over here. So there's a neuroscience group in Europe that was able to induce this illusion when people were even lying down, and that gave them the opportunity to stick them into a brain scanner and measure brain activity while they were having this out-of-body experience, and thought they were 6 feet away from their body. Brain imaging is limited in the sense that what we can say is, well, there are particular sets of Christmas lights that light up when you're having that kind of experience, but unfortunately, that's where science gets a little bit stuck, because we can describe the neural correlates of subjective experience, but we don't know yet why they're identical to that subjective experience. So the answer to your question is it has been measured, but the answer is not satisfying.
I must tell you my experience of this. I don't subject to these indignities anymore. Many years ago, it happened that somebody wanted to… I was in some institute in India, and it was a little bit of an obligation. I said, okay. They wanted to study my… measure my gamma waves in my brain. I did not know I had gamma waves in my brain. They said, no, you have, we want to study, you meditate. I said, I don't know any meditation. They said, you teach meditation to everybody. I said, yes, I teach them because they don't know how to sit still. You teach them methods of sitting still. If you want, I'll sit still. But their problem is their scientific study, they want the name of the meditation, the method and what happens to the gamma wave, something. That's how the process is. Then I sat still, they put some 14 electrodes to me and I sat there. After some time, maybe 15–20 minutes, with some metallic object, they started hitting my knee. I thought, okay, part of their experiment, and I sat there. Then my ankles, that funny place?
Yeah.
That very painful place. They're hitting that place. I thought, okay, it's their experiment, damn experiment, it's painful. But it became very persistent and extremely painful. Then I slowly opened my eyes, okay, why am I being beaten up like this? I opened my eyes and they were all giving me a weird look. I said, did I do something wrong? They said, according to our instruments, you are dead. I said, that's a great diagnosis. And then they said, you're either dead or you're brain dead. I said, no, that's too insulting. I'll take the first diagnosis. I'm dead, I'm okay. If you give me a certificate that I'm dead, I can live with that. If you give me a certificate I'm brain dead, that's not a good thing. So I don't know what this thing was about, but what I'm saying is, all instruments created by us are definitely lesser instruments than this one. It can't be more than that. Though a telephone can speak that far and I can only speak this far, all this, but they are lesser instruments in terms of sophistication. In terms of a particular action, they may be bigger than us. A bicycle can run faster than I can run, a motorcycle can go much faster where there is an aircraft which can fly. Yes, all that is there, but in terms of sophistication, there cannot be anything more sophisticated than who we are, because we cannot create something more sophisticated than ourselves. Whatever we create will be a byproduct of who we are. So in that context, using instruments to measure, yes, you can very easily fool the brain, it's very simple. There are many techniques like this in yoga, like David is talking about… he was talking to me about how you could trick the mind, that a smell can become a sound can become something else. The whole lot of… without all these gadgets, there are many ways that you could trick the human mind. And the magicians of the world have mastered this thing, simply like this, they pick things out of your pocket without you knowing what's happening to you. Because there is a certain way that you can use the faculty to go behind that and do certain things. That apart, in terms of fundamental sophistication, there is nothing more sophisticated than this gadget. This is the gadget, and this is the only form of experience you have with the world. When I say this is the only form of experience you have, right now can you see me, all of you? Just use your hands and point out, where am I? Oh, you got it all wrong. I'm a mystic from South India. Now, this light is falling upon me, reflecting, inverted image in the retina. You know the whole story. Where do you see me now? Within yourself. Where do you hear me now? Within yourself. Where have you seen the whole world? Within yourself. Everything that ever happened to you happened only within you. Right now, someone next to you, if they touch your hand, you think you're feeling their hand. No. You're only experiencing the sensations in your hand. You do one thing, you make somebody touch you like this 5 times, just observe this. After that, no hand, that person is not here, simply sit here, you can create the same sensation. Either you can do it with external stimuli or you can internally manufacture anything that you want. What you call as mental problems or mental diseases is just that they're creating many things without external stimuli. All the time it's happening. It's happening to everybody in so many different ways. When it goes out of control, we call it an ailment. Otherwise, almost every human being is various experiences they're creating without any external stimuli. If you go through your dream, a dream is as true as a reality when you're going through it, isn't it? I was… we started a school a few years ago, and this 8-year-old boy, I just walked into the school, this 8-year-old boy comes and asks, "Sadhguru, is life real or is it a dream?" I looked at him, this is an 8-year-old, you have to come with the truth, I said, life is a dream, but dream is true. Go Sadhguru, you're always like this only But that's a fact. Life is a dream, the way it's happening within you right now, it's a dream, but the dream is true in your experience. But this dream, you can make it whichever way you want, whichever way you want. In the sense you okay for a joke?
In the sense what?
On a certain day, a lady went to sleep. In her sleep, she had a dream. In her dream, she saw a hunk of a man standing there staring at her. Then he started coming closer and closer and closer. He came so close, she could even feel his breath. And she trembled, not in fear. Then she asked, "What will you do to me?" The man said, "Well, lady, it's your dream." Thank you. If you want to say something, please. So, it's your dream, you can make whatever out of it, and we can make this into a fantastic dream for ourselves and for everybody on this planet. Science and technology has done wonderful things for us to enhance our dreams, but I want the scientists to meditate. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.